Hi, everyone. We've got the lovely and very smart Polina with us here today. She's from IIA Insurance, and Polina covers various types of insurance in various industries. She's very good at what she does, and we partner with her. And I'll hand it over to you, Polina, to tell me about public liability insurance, correct?
Yes.
And your business and how you're different and unique to other businesses.
Thank you, Mina. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be sharing a subject that I think is super important because public liability is something that in business you would have heard. Somebody would have requested confirmation of your insurance, or perhaps asked you if you have public liability insurance, or you would have seen it in contracts that you enter into requesting you to have public liability insurance. But at first, I thought it's important to talk a little bit about us, who we are, what is it that we do, and why we're a good place to contact for public liability insurance if that comes up in your insurance requirements. So my company, IIA, was founded 16 years ago by myself and my business partner, Peter. We've very quickly grown our business and very proud to have a great team of people. I think what makes the business is a great team of professionals. We're based in Sydney, but in saying that, we do work nationwide. So we cover all industries, all clients from all walks of life. Public liability as one of the insurances that comes up probably in conversations for our brokers, with our brokers every single day.
Well, for us, Polina, we try to touch base with clients during tax planning season. I mean, we touch base with them throughout the year, but these conversations center towards insurance, more towards towards the tax planning area. And when there's a new business that's newly being established, and we said to them, you need to have this liability, this cover, this type of insurance, go to speak to Polina, go have a look at that type of thing.
Absolutely. It's the best time. Anytime there's a touch point to review your insurance policies is a great idea to see what is it that you've got. Is it competitive depending on your current situation in business? Because a lot of people don't consider changing insurance, but it might not align with your current situation. Or like you mentioned, if it's a startup business, the first thing they need is public liability. Then they can add other parts of the business insurance to it. And the reason being is if they're renting a shop, for example, or renting an office or a factory, the first thing that the lease agreement would request for them is to have public liability. But we can name that insurance policy quite often, but what is it really like?
What does it cover? Yeah.
Right. Public liability covers a third party. So that's where a lot of people go wrong. They think it's covering them, but it's actually covering a third party to their business. So not their employees, not themselves, not anyone directly involved in their business. It's any other member of public that can get hurt or injured, or their property can get injured as a result of your business or your business operation or anything that's to do with your business. So a third party can bring a lawsuit against the business, and you can put your assets on the line. That's where you as an accountant would come in and go, you don't want to put your house and your other assets on the line. So another way to transfer that risk is to get public liability insurance.
Yeah.
In Australia, there are various levels of cover that businesses can get, and they vary from 5 million to 50 million. The most common commercial public liability insurance taken up is 20 million. But in saying that, a lot of clients say to us, I don't want to spend a lot of money. 20 million sounds like a lot of cover. But when they look at pricing, the difference in price between 5 million and 20 million is very small, if at all. Sometimes it's the same price. So never focus on the price, focus on the level of cover. Then another question comes from our clients is, how do I know what level of cover do I need if the contracts I'm entering into don't specifically state the level of cover? Well, I always say to clients, look at it like that. If you had 10 million public liability and an executive of some large company fell over in your office, broke their leg, couldn't operate, required extensive treatment, and they were, earning a lot of money, and all of a sudden they couldn't focus on their business. What if their claim is more than $10 million? It is possible these days. It might be 11 or 12 million dollars. So you might be short on that money. So why not get 20 million and be properly protected? Most lease agreements, contracts would actually stipulate the level of cover required. So, these are important factors to consider. But of course, it depends on the industry that you're in as well and the type of work that you're doing. And then you look at the cost factor. Of course, for you as an accountant, it's important to work with cost and, the bottom line that the client needs to have in their business. We understand that. So we would always guide our clients not only on level of cover and the type of cover that they need, but also access that's applicable for any claims that may arise. So the higher the access, sometimes the lower the premium is. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it's a set access that you can't change, but it's a good mechanisms to look at. And also whether it's an Australian-wide cover or it's a particular local cover, depending on what you need. Or if you, for example, if a client is an electrician, it depends on what state they're in. There's different laws apply, and we may need to put special endorsements on a policy. That's where brokers come in. That's when we can advise the client on what they actually need, rather than just give them a stock standard type of policy that may not suit their needs. We work very much from a clean piece of paper with every client, building the policy they need based on their current requirements. And the reason why I always emphasize the word current is because what your needs are today, in 12 months' time, your needs may vary. They may change throughout the year as well. So just like yourself, we're doing regular check-ins with our client to make sure that their policy is adequate based on what they need, and that they know, just like an accountant, an insurance broker is there for them anytime. They don't need to wait to get a renewal notice and say, oh, hey, has anything changed? And now all of a sudden they tell us, oh, actually, I'm not doing something else, but that might not be noted on the policy. So that's where brokers come in. That's we work for the client, not for the insurer.
Yep.
We're not guided by any insurer. We're just guided by what the client's needs are and what's available on the market that we can source for the client. And of course, we work on our client's instructions, and as simple as we make an offer of what they can get, they provide us acceptance in terms, we then place that cover for them.
Yeah.
But as an insurance broker, I always say, and it's probably my favorite saying, is that we can only shine when there's a claims time, because otherwise we're only selling a promise. We can talk about a policy all day long, and public liability in itself has some variances of what type of policies that you can get. For example, you can have a public liability and a product liability included, depending on what the needs of your business are. You can now also have another section called care, custody, and control. So if you're holding your client's goods and you're legally responsible for those goods during that time, you can protect those goods.
Okay.
Yes. So, they're interesting things that a lot of business owners don't even know. They don't know.
Yes. Well,
so
okay.
That's when we have those ongoing discussions, and then a lot of our clients would reach out to their accountants or to their bookkeepers often when they're setting up a policy, and they say to them, oh, what do I need to have covered? Can you let me know? So then, they look at their financials as well and see, what the requirements are. A really big factor, and that's something that we work closely with accountants with, is depending on the turnover of business and the number of employees would determine the price on the public liability once the level of cover is chosen. And that's where a lot of times, we look at things, are they direct employees or they're subcontractors? Are they just casuals? And a lot of times accountants step in and give us a bit of guidance on how the businesses are structured with their help. And of course, turnover is a big driven factor, because if the business turns over millions of dollars or another business turns over $50,000, of course, the exposure for the insurers is very different. So then the pricing will be different as well. And a huge factor is what type of industry are we insuring here? Obviously somebody who is working from home, just maybe a virtual assistant, has a very low exposure. It doesn't mean they don't need insurance. To somebody who's doing manufacturing or producing products, much higher exposure. And all insurers base their pricing on the claims history that they've got on their books, how particular industries, how often they claim, how they operate within their businesses, and that determines the pricing as well. So we often get questions before any information is received from clients is, how much is it going to cost me? Well, it's impossible for me to know. I can often give a rough guide, but I don't like giving rough guides. You
mean you don't have a crystal ball?
No, I'd love to.
No.
Oh, I really wanted that for my birthday. That would solve a lot of problems. But I think, the best way is we make it super simple for our clients. We collect the information and we come back to them with the quote very quickly, but then we put a lot of emphasis on education. And my absolute favorite way to educate clients is to tell them about recent claims that we've experienced in our office, with other clients. So then if it's the same industry or similar industry, clients usually understand that it's not just a piece of paper, that it's not just a certificate of currency they need to produce with their contract or to their client, but they can actually have a peace of mind when they're doing their work.
Yeah.
And public liability is probably one of the most common claims made in businesses. And that's usually when clients really get stressed out. Oh my goodness, this happened. How am I going to afford paying my client? There's also a reputational risk, they don't want to ruin their relationship with the client. But when there's a policy in place, it's great. They can reach out to their broker, to their insurer, get it sorted, and, have a peace of mind and continue focusing on their business.
I think it's important to have a broker because, as you mentioned before, sort of summarizing there's different communication. The broker's on your side, they're working for you. And they're sourcing various types of policies from various insurance providers.
Absolutely.
To find out what's best for you. And they're actually asking the right questions. Are you in manufacturing? Okay, what do you do? Do you hold stock for customers, clients, so on and so forth? And so they tailor it for your needs. I wanted to ask you, Polina,
sure,
could you share with us an example of maybe a claim that you had to put through recently?
Sure. So many come to mind, but just to make it nice and simple, I'll run maybe through a few. So one of our clients is a tailor, and he was working on somebody's suit that was obviously left in his care to look after and also do all the alterations to the suit.
Yeah.
In doing that, when he was cutting the length, he just went a little bit too far and cut half of the pants. And it was an expensive suit that was, more than $3,000. And of course, he was panicking.
Yes.
Because number one, how's he going to tell the client? Maybe he can fix the suit with some invisible stitching. But what if the client finds out? These are the things that came to mind. So he rang our office and said, is my insurance, is my public liability covering me for that? I haven't injured anyone, but I've damaged somebody's property. And it actually was claimable under the care, custody and control section, which most policies provide automatic cover, not all policies, but most, of $250,000. So it was plenty of money there to work with. And we helped our client, who's the insured, fill out a claim form, give us the photos of the suit, give us the costings of what it would cost to maybe purchase another suit from, because it was an expensive one, so we couldn't just make him one.
Yes.
And of course, he was able, once the claim was accepted by the insurer, and it all happened very quickly, go to his client and just honor up and say, look, I'm human, this happened, but it's okay. All I need from you is the original purchase receipt for the suit, so we know what model it is, and find out if you can replace the suit at the same shop, or if not, the insurer will pay for like. So, maybe a slightly different model, but more current.
Yeah.
The client the client of our client in that case was a lawyer. And of course, our client was even more worried about that. But apparently the conversation went very well. And he said, wow, you're so proactive. You already, know how you can make sure that I get another suit and, and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Probably took in total about 2 weeks because of the paperwork, getting it from his client, sending it to us, sending it to the insurer. Payment was made. And our client was only out of pocket $500 because that was the limit of excess on his policy. And he couldn't be happier because it's a lot cheaper to pay $500, not ruin your business and reputation, than pay $3,000 and have a problem. So that's
Correct.
a very, very simple example. Recently, we had one claim which was, probably happens a lot. It was a coffee shop. So our client was making a coffee, and those big coffee machines sometimes produce that sort of steam that's coming out, and something was wrong with that machine. And instead of steam, it was like boiling hot water.
Oof.
And it was a very busy morning, and there was a lot of people waiting for coffee because it was in the city. And the person that was standing closest to that machine got burned. It wasn't a severe burn.
Yeah.
There was still a burn that they needed to go to the doctor for, get some creams. Thank God there was no need for any surgical intervention. And our client was really upset about that. So that was actually a twofold claim. There was a public liability to help the injured person. And it wasn't a big claim. It was just a bit over the excess. So it was still a claim, because the excess on that policy was only $250. So the doctor's visits, creams, and anything else that person needed got paid. Our client only paid $250. Then there was turned out it was a machinery breakdown.
Yeah, so the equipment come up. Yeah,
right. So he also claimed under another section of his overall business insurance policy, and I paid an additional access for that. There are separate sections, but he was really happy. So actually a new machine had to be purchased, and he offered that client free coffees forever, just so that he would continue coming to his coffee shop. And I understand that they were able to fix their relationship very quickly, but unfortunately that happens. So, that's personal injury.
Yeah, and that's why you have insurance.
Absolutely.
You touched up on it before, we're all human.
Yes.
As part of being human, right? You have systems, policies, procedures in place to achieve a high level of quality control, right?
Absolutely.
But and those systems are in place to mitigate issues, but they can't completely prevent issues.
No, they can't completely.
And that's correct. And that's why you have various types of cover.
Absolutely.
Okay? And even with us accountants, obviously we speak about structuring, Is a company right for you? Is a trust right for you? And we look at those types of structures, but we also advise and say, okay, well, creditors can't go after you personally, right? As long as you're not criminally liable, that type of thing. You need to speak to a lawyer more about that. But instead of, worrying just about that, well, have insurance and then you're covered. You don't need to worry about the next step. So, there are different levels of protection that we're building into the business. And you touched up about cost before and the bottom line, the profit, right?
Yes.
It's very important to be mindful of expenses, but ensure that these expenses are doing what they need to be doing. We're incurring expenses for a particular reason. So getting the right cover is very, very important, because you don't want to get something that doesn't cover you for what you actually need.
Yes.
And then down the line, be whacked with a huge, medical bill, legal bill, so on and so forth. And then say, oh my goodness, I wish I was covered correctly and I was paying the right amount. I spoke to the right person who gave me the correct advice. That's
right. And you're so right. And you mentioned, the use of the broker. And it's not because I'm a broker and I believe that, business owners should utilize broker services, but because I've seen it firsthand. Recently, I had a conversation with a client who was paying public liability that he used to purchase for a number of years online.
Yes. Yep.
So there was no conversation with the broker. He was simply selecting what he thought was right for his scenario. So in that case, he was doing public liability, and as occupation, he selected consultant. Consultant is a very broad term. Consultant what? And he was paying something like $600 a year, and that was going on for a number of years.
Yeah.
He was referred to us, interestingly enough, by one of our accountants that we deal with, because he applied for a tender to a local council, and they knocked back his application and asked him to resubmit purely because public liability insurance wasn't correct. When they looked at his public liability certificate of currency, for occupation, it says consultant, and it had no elaboration on what else is that he actually doing.
Yeah.
He wasn't a consultant. He was actually a traffic controller for large construction sites, and the council, was possibly engaging him.
You mean that's still not consulting? He's consulting people. He's consulting traffic where to go.
That's right.
No? Well, that's what his thinking was.
That's what he's thinking was. And that's okay, because, how was he supposed to know?
Yeah.
So he was referred to us straight up. I said to him, look, I have to give you the bad news and the good news.
Yeah.
The bad news is that there's a possibility that your premium will be $10,000+ based on what you're doing and the level of cover that's being requested and your turnover and so on.
Yeah.
Good news is we can do it.
Yeah.
And you need proper cover, because what's the point of paying $600? You might as well open the window, throw your money out, because you're never going to be able to make a claim.
Yeah.
Of course, he wasn't thrilled, but we went ahead, got all the information, organized the quote for him. And then subsequently, he has finalized the policy with us, went back to the council, and actually won a $2 million contract.
And I was just about to ask you, let's put that into perspective.
Yeah.
Right. And, ask the question, okay, how much was the insurance? 10,000.
Yeah.
How much was he tendering for?
Exactly.
What was the business going to generate?
That's right. So there was a contract which he can then renew if he performs well. So potentially he'll make a lot more money.
Yes.
And yes, annually it will cost him roughly about $10,000 plus.
Yeah.
Depending again, if his business grows, yes, the premium will grow, but only marginally.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he could have lost that contract altogether.
Correct.
Purely because he didn't understand what is it that he was getting from online portals. I'm not speaking badly of online portals. They serve its purpose and they're fantastic and they're easy to use. And a lot of times that's the way to go for some clients.
Yeah.
But if you're in a worthwhile business, you've got to think big. You've got to have proper procedures, policies, and therefore you've got to have proper insurance in place. And you can only do it if you discuss it with those that understand it. No different to somebody coming to you and they know what profit and loss is. They know, what kind of accounts they need to keep, but can they possibly do it as well as you can?
Look, for me, I prefer to refer people to brokers because they have the knowledge and they tailor the service for the client, for the customer. Okay. I think the difference between going online and using a broker is that personal touch, and you're being covered. Well, at least significantly more than you would if you were just going to an online shop. And it's the same for us accountants when people say, look to set up a structure. And a lot of people hop online and go, oh yeah, I'll set up a company. Fairly cheap. But they don't have they haven't consulted with someone and asking, okay, what's your family group like? What are you earning? What type of income are you earning? Because some income, you can't put it in a company and you can't put it in a trust. Yeah. You've got to pull it out and you've got to put it in your own name. So it defeats the purpose. I mean, there's some kind of liability protection in operating as a company. But again, if you don't have the various types of insurances, it's not going to help you that much.
No.
So it's very important to reach out to someone who knows what they're doing, will actually ask you the right questions so you can give the answers and then tailor it to ensure that you're covered.
Absolutely. Look, we always want to be that person that people reach out even for questions. They don't necessarily need to get the cover, but that they're comfortable enough to discuss their scenario. And we see that with startups. And I love when somebody thought of a great business idea, they're working on putting it together, but before they go to that next stage of even setting up a company and spending the money, that they talk to their insurance broker or somebody that has recommended an insurance broker for them,
Yes.
that they talk to their accountant, they talk to their financial advisor, their lawyer. And it's only when they can see the full picture, know the full cost that it's going to involve, then they make that informed decision and they go to their next stage.
Yes.
Because there are still industries that are very difficult to get insurance for, very expensive. So for example, anything to do with children, it is possible to obtain,
right,
but it's expensive. And I just had that conversation with somebody on Friday where a lady is setting up a business, doing something with little kids between the age of 3 and 5. And straight up, I said to her, I'm very upfront. I'd rather let you know before you go down that path. Insurance is not going to be cheap.
Yes.
And the conditions on the public liability are going to be pretty strict. What does that mean for you? You need to know what the conditions are, then sort of work backwards to put terms and conditions in your business. Work with your lawyer to make sure that you've got the right disclaimers, the right forms to complete. And she actually said to me, I never knew that insurance would involve so much and that I have to all of a sudden rewrite my whole business plan based on that.
Yeah.
So in some ways she was pleased, but in some ways she was already probably 90% in setting up her business. So now we're going to work on how much is it going to cost. And she said to me, why is it more expensive? Well, because there's a lot of lawsuits when it involves children.
Yes.
With far greater risks. And also, if a child gets injured, the compensation that they may be awarded to, maybe till the age of 18. That's a lot of years, a lot of money. Sometimes 20 million might not be enough.
Yeah.
So it was actually really good to have that conversation. And I thought, I was really glad that I could just tell her up front, not just take her information and then come back to her with a huge quote.
Yeah.
And then she'll think that I didn't do the right thing by her. When I set expectations up front, usually we can work with those clients to create what they need, in terms of the insurance.
Yes.
But, and again, we were talking about turnover, for example. I was telling her that you need to know. She said, well, it's a startup. How would I know? So naturally, I said to her, do you have an accountant? Yes. Okay, great. Go to your accountant, work on your cash flow projections.
Yes.
And they can guesstimate, but it has to be some figure because you're never going to get into the business without knowing that it's going to generate some form of profit.
Yeah.
Particularly now when the world is so, upside down, we want to make sure that it's all numbers driven and you can work within those numbers. Yeah. And of course, insurance policies renew every 12 months. So we do a thorough review every 12 months. We don't renew insurance policies automatically. We don't auto rollover, although a lot of clients prefer for us to do that because they don't want to think about that. But we're very notorious in saying, what has changed? How much has it changed?
Yes.
Maybe you're doing something else. And you'd be shocked, the information that all of a sudden starts to unfold. And we don't necessarily put them with the same insurer. That's the great thing about using a broker, is that today public liability might be great with one insurer, but in 12 months time, they maybe had a lot of claims with various clients, and all of a sudden their pricing has gone up 20-30%. Yeah. So that's why we search the market to see, can we find close enough to what the client was paying, but taking into consideration their needs of today.
Can I ask you a question on that, please?
Sure.
How would it work for, I believe it's called retrospective cover? So if you are changing from one insurer to the other, and within that period, someone puts through a claim or, takes you to court, so on and so forth, but it relates to a period that it was covered by another provider. How does that work exactly?
In public liability, it will fall back onto the period of the insurer that was covering the insured at that time.
Yeah.
And only what the client may find out later on.
Yes.
The insurer was covering that 12 months, so it would fall back onto that insurer.
Yeah, and then cover it.
Yeah, and under the conditions
Yes.
of that cover the client had. Because,
Gotcha.
the retroactive cover is more prevalent in professional indemnity that we'll cover some other time.
Yes.
But with public liability, it's, if you had a cover for 12 months and you were insured with a insurer, and then after 12 months, you changed insurers because maybe your operation has slightly changed or
Yes.
with other reasons. But all of a sudden, on day one of your new policy, you find out that client wants to make a claim and they all of a sudden came back to you a little bit later in the piece. That's okay. You can still lodge a claim based on the period when it happened.
Gotcha.
And again, brokers would,
so long as the facts, so long as the facts that the issues that you're covered for,
yes,
are still the same.
Still the same.
During the time that the person raised the claim, isn't for the time the person.
That's right. And even if somebody doesn't renew the policy and doesn't obtain new policy, and that unfortunately happens, some people think it's a cost thing, because public liability is not it's not a legal requirement to have that policy. It's a good to have, and it's only sort of required if it's under the contract of a lease or a contract that you've entered with the client.
Yes.
There's no law like workers' comp that you have to have it. So it's nice to have. But the policy may lapse, and all of a sudden they find out that there was something that occurred, and their client or a third party believes that they're responsible for that. They can still lodge a claim, and the broker would still help them, although it's on the previous period. In saying that, not everything is a claim and not everything is claimable.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that sort of misunderstanding. If they pay insurance, everything should be covered. There's still details that clients need to know. But again, only a broker can sit down with the client, whether it's over Zoom or face-to-face or over the phone, and go through the finer details of what's covered and what's not covered. Where we see a lot of that is faulty workmanship. So say, for example, a tradie or somebody from an automotive industry, if a faulty workmanship is not added to the public liability as a special endorsement, it may not be covered.
Right.
But a lot of people don't know that. They go, they do their work, they don't complete their work well.
Right.
Then they have a claim that's brought against them, and then the insurer may only pay resultant damage or may not pay at all. So there are lots of little details that clients need to know.
Yeah.
But we work with our clients, and there's been instances where we've offered a proper policy and the client wanted a cheap policy and they didn't have all those bells and whistles, but we've put a full summary and explanation. They still chose a cheaper one. They subsequently had a claim. It wasn't covered because they went for the cheaper option.
Yeah.
So we have this honest to hard discussion saying, if you paid a little bit more, you would have been covered, but now, unfortunately, you're not. We have explained it. And then what happens when the renewal comes around, we highly encourage them to get a better policy. And normally they do, but sometimes they're a bit out of pocket or a lot of out of pocket. I've seen claims of hundreds of thousands of dollars not being covered because clients chose not to get a proper public liability in place with faulty workmanship, with all bells and whistles that it needs to.
Yeah.
Or where a lot of people get stuck, they go for a really high excess of say $5,000 for any one claim. Claim arises, they've got to pay $5,000 towards that claim, and they may not have that money at the time.
Yeah.
The premium difference could have been only small. So it's all about education and ongoing education. We never assume that just because we did a policy for somebody a year ago, that 12 months on, we don't need to continue educating them. So my brokers in the office, I often hear them on the phone. They're just educating clients, explaining things, giving them claim scenarios, examples.
Yeah. So they can make an informed decision. Yeah,
that's right. And always then putting it in writing. So it's right there and they can digest it all. They can take it to their account and see if it's, if the cost is affordable for their business, as well. And then, we come back with instructions sometimes and they want to adjust things, so we do that.
Yeah.
But it's a team effort. That's all I'm trying to say, that if the person uses a broker and gets public liability or any other insurance, they need to know that there's a team behind them that can back them up and answer their question, whether they're big questions or small questions. There's no silly question.
Yeah.
And even myself, sometimes I don't know the answer. So I would go to the insurer, I would clarify, I would ask
Proactive.
to give it in writing to us, the clarification, so we can save it on the file. We then answer those questions to our clients, because I simply can't know about absolutely every industry.
Agree. Yeah, agree. I want to go back to, what you mentioned, education is important. I completely agree. I mean, I'm trying to stay as active as I possibly can on social media. We've got TikTok, YouTube, so on and so forth. And we try to educate clients so they understand about something prior to them having to go through it, and they can adjust accordingly. And you touched up on business plans. And I did a video about business plans where you don't wait completely until the business plan is perfect. And relating that back to the example you had with your client who is working in an area, in an industry that involves children. Now, if she had just focused on the business plan and getting that business plan perfect, she would have taken the step of, okay, let's go start speaking to the insurance broker, let's go speaking to the bank, so on and so forth, and actually trying to find out if the plan is correct. And so, she's taken the information you've provided, and she's gone back and said, I have to change my business plan now. And that's what people should be doing. There should be at all times, and like you mentioned, those touch points at the renewal of the insurance policy, where they ask you, you ask them various questions. This is an opportunity for them to actually, triggers their thinking to where is our business at?
Yes.
How do we need to go back and change the business plan? Because it's a document that continues to transform.
Absolutely.
It's not a fixed document.
No, absolutely. And also, laws change.
Yes.
Legislation changes
for
industries.
Yes.
So that document, the business plan, can never be set in stone.
Yeah.
It needs to be, in my opinion, reviewed every 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
As a health check for the business, to know where you're at. But also along that time, you learn a lot.
Correct. Yeah. It's the learning curve.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because
it's very important to take action. Yes.
And you may mention something that's to do with accounting.
Yes.
Or business structuring, or there's a new law that came in. Did you know you can now do this?
Yes.
Then straight away they should contact an insurance broker and go, okay, well, with these new changes and things that I've learned from my accountant, how is it going to affect my insurance?
Yes.
A lot of times it affects it, and a lot of times we may say, no, it doesn't matter. It's still within the policy's terms and conditions. Or a lot of times I say to clients, okay, well, this is a great change because that can possibly make you a lot more money in your business or make your business more flexible.
Yes.
But let me speak to the insurer to see what is it they suggest. Yeah. Some insurers are quite happy, depending on what policy it is, to review the terms and conditions that the client operates under to see whether they would definitely cover everything, and they may advise on something, right, or they may recommend a lawyer they need to be seeing.
Yes.
For that particular area within the terms and conditions of their business. So, for example, a great example is called Harmless Agreement. I don't know if you've seen it in some of your clients' contracts. Clients sometimes don't understand it, and they basically say, well, whatever happens, I'll cover it. But insurers would say, well, if you've got that condition, we're not going to pay the insurance policy. You've already agreed that you'll cover it. You didn't include us. And we've had that scenario a couple of years ago where an employment agent was supplying temporary staff to other offices for IT services. And they have entered into an agreement with their client and it had a whole harmless clause in there that basically said, no matter what happens, we'll cover you. A lady that they've sent to do temporary work was coming out of the office and accidentally got knocked on the head with the door. She subsequently got a great lawyer, and they've made a claim of $750,000 for compensation to be awarded to her. The insurer wanted to see a copy of the contract that was entered into, but only at claims time, because in the policy, it did say, and we did bring it to our client's attention, if you'd like us to review your contracts, let us know, and we'll get the insurer to, assist you with it. They can't advise you on the whole contract, but they would have at least seen that. Client chose not to do it. So at claims time, a claims consultant can ask for any information because they need to verify that everything was done in accordance with the terms and conditions.
The agreement.
When they sent that through and they saw that condition, they came back and said, sorry, it's not covered because you've already agreed to indemnify them for whatever. That's not correct. And we don't know why you've done that, but it's up to you. So subsequently, they ended up paying out of pocket $750,000.
Goodness me.
And it must have been a severe injury. And, I feel for that.
Yes, of course.
And everything. But if they had reviewed the policy, had an honest to heart discussion with us, spoke to their lawyer and understood the conditions of the contract they were entering into, also looked at their financials to see if it's going to be affordable for them, if anything still arise, because literally they just, what's the point of the insurance if they could have just put the money aside, right?
Correct.
But unfortunately, these instances happen as well. So it's not all rosy or perfect. But once we've explained everything, they quickly saw that the fault was with them and the lawyer that didn't give them proper explanation about the contract that they were handing out to their clients. So again, that's another, story.
So they followed up with the lawyer.
That's right. And at the conversation my staff have had with that client went as far as the client said, it is so great because now I understand. And we've made a mistake, we'll pay for it, but now I understand, I'm educated. In that area. So
I mentioned before about various business structures and how they protect you. But based on the conversation that we've had, how would something like that protect you if you can't pay for $750,000 as an example? Okay. So the creditors can't go after you because you've got a company or some other organization that protects you, but ultimately that's a significant amount of damage to the brand. How are you going to go back and operate another business if you wanted to operate another business?
Absolutely.
So there's all these various aspects that we need to be cognizant of and understand how insurance plays a part in, again, building that level of protection.
That's right. Yes, structure is really important. We have this conversation often where clients say, I'm a sole trader. Do I need to register a company? We can't advise on that. Send them off to their accountant to discuss structures and see how that's better suited for their circumstances.
Yes. So we can see there how there's a relationship between the broker, the accountant, the lawyer, the insurance provider. All these various people, and maybe any other professional that needs to get involved to make sure that it's correct, like HR advisors, for example, that type of thing.
Absolutely. So these conversations are everyday conversations with clients, and clients simply don't know, and they don't need to know. That's why they need what I call a talent bank of professionals, and they know, okay, I can ring Mina and he'll advise me on tax, he'll advise me on structure of my business. I'll ring Polina, she'll help me with the insurance. And if I need a lawyer to then create proper paperwork to go with that, well, they'll either recommend somebody or the client may already have somebody in place. And, it also works to do your own research, even after speaking to all of us.
So you highly recommend Google, do you?
Yeah. I still think people need to do their own research
Yeah.
so that they're 100% comfortable
Yes.
with whatever service they're getting.
Yes.
And they know that we are there to do our best to do the right thing by them.
Yeah.
And
we can help with that by providing the education upfront.
Yes.
Without asking for business, it's just helping them to make an informed decision. And to a degree, providing various sources.
Yeah. So that's, it's a team effort. It's not just a tick and
It
click.
really
it's
is.
not a piece of paper. But in my mind, insurance is a way to transform some of your risk into a policy.
Yes.
Having a peace of mind so that you can focus on your business from day to day.
Yeah.
And know who to call, and that you're not going to be a number in a call center speaking to a different person every time you have a question or you have a claim, and you're getting frustrated because it's already stressful when there's any claims. With the broker, you know that you'll talk to the team of brokers that you're dealing with or with a particular broker, and you know that at the end of the day, things are going to be taken care of. Same as with accounting. And, we of course have got our legal obligations to do the right thing by the client, and our human obligations to make sure that, their businesses thrive, grow, and they continue insurance through us for many years to come.
Correct. It's about mitigating risk for everyone involved, the business, the client, customer, and the people who they work with.
Absolutely. And so I love insurance. I'm not just saying that, but I love seeing clients getting helped.
Yes.
Educated.
It's very satisfying. Yes.
And also I love clients that stay with us for a very long time because they know that they don't need to go and look somewhere else.
Yeah, agree. Well, I'm going to say thank you very, very much. That was very, very informative. We need to mention, as always, that this isn't professional legal advice or tax advice. You really need to reach out to the professionals to make sure that the information is tailored for your needs. Okay, it's very, very important. Once again, thank you very, very much, Polina. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we look forward to speaking with you about the next topic. What's the next topic?
I reckon we should tackle cyber insurance because
cyber insurance.
There's a lot of cyber attacks that are happening at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Looking forward to that one. Once again, thank you very much. And we'll catch up with you on the next one.
Thanks very much, Mina.
See you, Polina.
Take care. Bye.